And now it is time for our keynote speaker this morning. I want to tell you that, I don't know, I suspect many of you have worked with city managers. I've not worked in the city of Comanche, but if I ever get invited to be in Comanche, working for or working with City Manager Chuck Ralls, I think will be a treat. And I think that we're in a treat this morning because Chuck Ralls is our keynote speaker. Chuck, come on up.
Thank you, Megan. So first, I want to thank OKRA for the invitation. It's a great organization. I enjoy being affiliated with you guys and seeing what you're doing across the state. It's amazing that we have an organization like this in Oklahoma that is really reaching out and providing support to cities like myself. And I know, looking around the room, about 30% of you, and so it's good to see some faces and some friends. And for the rest of you that I have not met, let's become friends. Come to Comanche, let's hang out. So, keynote speaker, I'm like, well, do they know the definition of keynote? Why are they putting me? I mean, I'm a city manager in a small rural community, and this is a statewide organization full of people that are specific in this industry. And what do I have to offer? And so, after thinking about it and going through, I felt like I could just tell you what we do. What can you do in a rural, small town? We're 2,000 residents. And, offer options that are not only affordable, but replicable, things that you could take back. Now, just curious, how many have either lived in a city less than 5,000 or currently live in a city less than 5,000 residents? So a good number of you. This is something that they could take off with day one. And then it's also scalable for larger cities that they can take and implement. And so I'm going to get started here. And to understand recycling, everyone's going to have a different perspective. You are coming from different backgrounds, different cultures, and your recycling, not only recycling, but your life experiences are based upon those histories. And so I wanted to take a little trip through my recycling history, and I'm not a component of evolution here, but I love this graphic. But you need to know where recycling started and my exposure to it. So the history of recycling, according to Chuck, going back in the late 70s and early 80s, very low income. My dad was working 3 jobs, 2 to put food on the table and whatever, but I got a lot of hand-me-downs, and I would go to school in high waters like this, and it was embarrassing. But taking that and applying it now, there are a lot of opportunities to recycle clothes, recycle furniture, and I strongly support clothes closets, Goodwill, thrift stores, things like that, because it keeps it out of the landfill. We have a clothes closet in Comanche, and they serve 195 families every month. Now, it's primarily clothes, but they do get furniture for people that have had a home burned down. They've just, battered women moving out, trying to make a fresh start. So they're able to reach out. So when you have things and you do garage sales or whatever, but before you just throw it in the landfill, we need to educate our community that there are options and places that they can take those items and not only keep it out of the landfill, but help others that are in need. So I didn't realize at the time that, when I'm getting made fun of at school for wearing, clothes that didn't fit, that it would prep me for being able to contribute to a community down the road. Now, who here has ever used a butter dish or a Cool Whip dish, and you stick them in the refrigerator and you go through about 8 of them before you find the one that you're looking for because it's full? My grandmother, she was the worst. Don't throw that away. We're going to need it. Don't throw. She had, I'm not kidding, probably 100 of these Cool Whip stacked up, ready to go anytime she needed them. But she was teaching me at that point to reuse. They came up through the Great Depression. They really struggled to have things, and so it set a new foundation. And these little Minute Maids, I still keep those because I put nuts and screws. I do woodworking, and so I've got different size nuts and screws and bolts throughout my shop in these little Minute Maid containers. So this was a good one. This is really what got me interested in recycling. My dad, he liked to drink a little bit. And he would save his cans. Well, one day I got to go with him to the recycling center, and he turned all these cans in and got some money. I mean, he walked out with cash. I don't know how much it was. And I said, hey, this is an opportunity. And this is, late 80s, early 90s. And I got on my bicycle, and I started going through town. I was going through trash cans, bar ditches, everywhere, picking up cans because I could make some money. When you're a 10-year-old kid, 11-year-old kid, any money's good. And so that really got me into recycling. Didn't know I was helping the environment, didn't know I was helping the community, but I was helping myself. And so then in 1991, I moved to Naval Air Station Jacksonville. I lived with my uncle. We actually lived in this house right here. And the military, they were kind of ahead of the curve, and they had a required participation in their recycling program. We had a bin like this one over here that sat in the pantry area, and you had to put all your recycling in there, and then twice a week you would set it out. They would come through and collect it. And not only did they collect the recycling and then sell the recycling, but they used the money specifically to build playgrounds such as this. Not this exact one, but it was this one right here. It was made out of recycled materials. So they were reinvesting the recyclables and investing that money into the community. So I was like, okay, this is a pretty neat thing. And that got me even more educated on the recycling program and how it could help the environment and the community further. And I'm going to fast forward because over the next several years, different communities that I lived in had different type of recycling programs. Some were good, some were not. Until 2016 when I came to Comanche. And this was our recycling program. And essentially, their definition of recycling is anything that would not fit in the normal trash can must be recyclable, so let's just put it in there. Anybody else have this problem? No? It's okay. And so our recycling wasn't getting picked up. It was sitting on the side of the road for weeks and weeks and weeks. And we have an ordinance that says you can't leave it out there more than one night. And so I start questioning this. Well, that's the way we've always done it. We just leave it, and eventually the trash truck will take it. Well, what's the point in having a program that isn't working? And we had virtually no participation. They were going out and even trying to pay people through point systems to where if you would recycle, we would calculate your tonnage, and you would get. It wasn't working. It was horrible, and that's what we ended up with. So, looking at recycling to pass again through a series of changes, adopt new uses to bring it back and make it ready for use. So I looked at the recycling program. I said, this isn't working. What can we do? How can we educate our citizens to use this properly? It was important to me. It was important to the leaders of our community that this program work. And so we started going out, we started talking to them, we started putting notes on doors, we got some little door hangers and said, hey, this isn't recyclable, you really need to work on it. Just start with these few things. And it started growing, and we got up to about a 40% participation rate. And, I was, side note, but we really started to get some momentum, and then it kind of capped out. I put this in, I'm a flea market connoisseur, so one of my hobbies, I like to build furniture, I like to recycle furniture, upcycle furniture, but there's nothing that you can't recycle or upcycle. I go in, I find some things that you wouldn't believe, and I take it back to the shop, and my wife says I'm a hoarder, but no, I'm really not. It's an investment, it's inventory. But I might have an 8,000 square foot warehouse full of things that I'm keeping out of the landfill. So taking recycling forward, we need to change the industry a little bit. And I know that OKRA and many of you in here are in the forefront of this. And if you recall, we used to go to a bookstore and buy our books, and we used to call a taxi. And these two companies here, they redefined their industries. They took a new approach to a everyday common need. And, growing up, we were told don't talk to strangers and don't get in a stranger's car. Who's taken an Uber in the last couple of months? I've taken 4 or 5 this week. But we're calling a stranger just so we can get into their vehicle. But it's a system that works. And, they got outside the box. They rethought how we could do transportation. We need to do the same thing with recycling. We need to come up with new ways, new initiatives to get the public engaged. Because if we keep doing it the same way, we're going to keep having the same participation, 30%, 40% participation. And we need to get that up in the 70s, 80s. And to be sustainable, it'd be great to get to 100%. New industries are coming online. They're creating new waste, but that also creates new opportunity. You look at these EV cars. You're going to be having a lot of batteries coming out of that. That's a new opportunity for recycling. As industry change, technology changes, we need to be able to adapt and not keep doing things the same way we did in the early 90s. I think it was Bill Gates that said, give me a lazy person, he'll find a new way to do it. I've hired a lot of lazy people. They don't find new ways to do it. But I do find that if you bring someone from outside your industry and give them a problem, they will give you a new solution. If you're hiring somebody that's been in the recycling community their entire career, they may not be able to give you a new perspective. I come into city government from the private sector, and we changed things up a little bit. I'd never done it before, didn't know how it was supposed to be done, and so I said, this is the way we're going to do it, and my council agreed, and so we made changes. So as you're recruiting, as you're growing your organization, I encourage you to find someone that can contribute, that meets the skill set, but maybe outside the industry. That way we're going to grow it, we're going to get new perspectives, and so most people want to do the right thing, but they don't know how, or it's not convenient. You talk to people in the community about the recycling program. Oh, yes, I want to support the recycling program. Yes, I want to contribute to my community and to the environment, but I don't know how to do it. How do you get started? And then you tell them, well, it's just not easy enough, or it's too difficult, or it's a waste of my time. But how much time do you spend in your organization on educating about recycling? How much money do you spend in that? Is it enough? Is it too much? Is it wasteful spending? Are you spending that money in the right area? And I love the TikTok. She was talking about doing TikTok. I used to be on TikTok. It became a little bit of a burden for me, so I got off. But you're reaching a new audience. You're reaching people that you would not normally reach through your mailers or through your conventional methods of education. Measure your marketing efforts and your education efforts. If you're not putting analytics to it, you're just wasting your time and your money. So you need to be able to see the return, what you're getting back. And so we really, in Comanche, we started marketing and then talking to them, doing surveys, catching them at the grocery store. Is this working? What do you feel? Did you see this? And we took that back and we listened, and they said, we really don't like it. It really doesn't work. One of the most common responses I received was, well, it's just going to the landfill anyway. Why do we need to separate it? And I said, well, it's not. It's going in a separate. No, we see the trash truck come through, and they're just dumping it in the back. What happened was we had a side dump that was dedicated for recycling. That truck went down, so they just switched over to a rear dump, and they started picking up the recycling. They didn't communicate that with me. I didn't know until the community started complaining that it's just going to the landfill, and we're paying for it. So they're paying extra for the recycling program, and they're thinking it's going to the landfill, which it wasn't. And so we started talking, how do we continue these efforts? And we looked at this Amazon and Uber approach and said, okay, let's just do something different. If they don't have confidence in what we're doing at their curb, let's provide them with another alternative. And I'll get to that in just a minute. And then looking forward, what can we do that will completely redefine recycling? And I think that's why we're here today, is to network and communicate on efforts that other communities are doing, what we can implement in our cities. It's broken right now. It's not working as a whole. But we have contamination, we have high sorting cost. Hauling is probably one of the biggest challenges you have right now. And then finding the right buyers. So in Comanche, it's been a pay-to-play approach. It's not working. It's having negative effects on many customers. Last year, my citizens, because they pay up, in just addition to the trash, they pay for the recycling program. They paid $71,808 for recycling, and we're only at a 40% participation. I'm paying for it, but I'm not using it. I want a discount off my bill. Every month, we hear it. And it was also not available to our commercial customers, which is one of your biggest producers. We didn't have a method for them. So, Chuck, that's terrible. What are you going to do? Well, I'll tell you what we did. Step one, we had to find a recycler that didn't charge to recycle. And they were even going to come pick it up and pay us for the materials for free. And so Replenish, we were able to connect with them. We were a little bit outside of their footprint. I know that some of you in here, Ardmore, they're using it. It's a great program for communities and even businesses if you're generating enough recyclable material. But we met with them and we set up a program. They expanded their territory to incorporate Comanche, and we told them about our first recycling event. They sent us, I think, 30 bags, and we filled those very quickly. And so that gave us an option to where we can now get out of our existing recycling program. In January, we will be terminating or redefining our contract with our waste collector. They will no longer be handling our recyclables. We're going to handle it internally. So I want to take a break, and I'm going to thank a couple of people. Amanda and Jeanette. We've got DEQ and Keep Oklahoma Beautiful. They have been great partners in educating me and my city. Plus, they like to give out money. So, who doesn't like people that give out money? As a public works director, I am scared to death of DEQ, but as a city manager, they are my best friend. We have received so much money, so much education, so much opportunity through the Department of Environmental Quality. Fenton, good to see you. I was in a meeting one day, and I was actually talking negatively about DEQ and how they are not there to help. And he quickly educated me. He pulled me aside and said, we're here to help. And he gave me some resources, and that got the ball rolling. And so this was the product of one of our grants. And this is a recycling trailer. And it cost $13,200. We received a grant from DEQ for $12,400. And we put it out on our first recycling event, and they had stuff falling out of it. And they're sorting it. I don't even have to sort it. It's pre-sorted, and then we're able to just take it and put it in these bags and move it out. But it has been a great educational tool. We take it to all of our festivals. We've got Fall Fest. We take it to all of our ball games. And our recreation park, it's not uncommon for us to see 3,000 to 4,000 people at a tournament. Take it there, they're filling it up and they're sorting it. They're not, contaminating it. They're not mis-sorting it. And it's been a great educational. People drive by and say, hey, look at that. If it's not at an event, it is parked in front of City Hall. We empty this thing twice a week. The glass, not so much, which is good because it's harder for us to get rid of the glass, but the cardboard, the plastics, the aluminum cans, they're filling this thing up and they're using it. And I've received a huge response from our commercial and businesses because they're getting all these boxes in and they didn't have a place to take them. So they're bringing them here, we're recycling them, and it's really changed the perspective in our community of what recycling is. So this was kind of a launching in point. So now we had to figure out a way to make it scalable and sustainable. And we have had conversations. We're moving forward with what is called a mini MRF. Many of you know what a MRF is. Well, that wouldn't work for us, one, because we didn't have enough money to build it. But we are creating a small sorting facility. We're going to continue to do curbside pickup. I'm going to hire kind of like the Goodwill method, where you take people that have limited skill sets and you put them in there and they can sort. They can tell the difference between plastic and glass and cardboard, and they can sort these into different bins. It provides them an opportunity, gets them out of the house, gives them some education, and then we're going to have a couple of staff that will go around and collect, be a minimal investment. I already have the vehicle. I'm just going to buy a dump trailer. We're going to go through, collect these once a week. And then as we find contamination, we're looking at it firsthand. We're not relying on an automated truck. We can put a tag on their cart. We can go talk to them, have conversations, and say, hey, this really isn't recyclable. We'll work with you on this. But we feel that we can get from that 40%, up to a 70% participation and reduce that contamination to 5%. There's no guarantee here, but based on our conversations and our experiences so far, we feel that is an achievable number. So the anticipated program for this, we're looking at $70,000. That's for the vehicle. If we buy a new one, we have one that we've found since I put this that we think that we can repurpose. The existing revenues are already collecting $72,000, plus the new revenues of $20,000. That's from what we're selling into the market. That would be $22,000 that we can reinvest into education and community cleanup efforts. And we've already been doing this. We're collecting, maybe on my next, get ahead, okay. So no good white trash. We got a lot of that in Comanche. And y'all know what white trash is, right? Recyclers, okay. And so people are just throwing these out, and my street department has taken the initiative as they're driving through, or my parks department, they're driving through with lawnmowers on the back. They'll pick these up, throw them in the back of their trailer, and they take them to our street barn, and we've got a metal recycling dumpster. We throw it in there. And we've been making quite a bit of money. Last year we made $5,400 with just really no effort. They're just picking it up and throwing it in. And it's keeping it off the street. It's things that the trash trucks really don't want to pick up. We don't want it to go to the landfill, and it's an opportunity for us to, put some money back in the community for our cleanup efforts. All right. So power to playgrounds. This is something that we started doing, I think 3 years ago. We are taking our bad power lines, things that are, outdated, frayed. We can't really, rely on them. So we're taking the power lines and we're recycling those. The copper and aluminum are primarily what we have there. And we take that money and we buy new power poles. So we'll buy a truckload of power poles. The old power poles, that's not mine, but it was a good picture. We take the power poles and we chip them up. We found that it makes really good, soft, durable mulch. Now, we're not taking the ones that are full of staples. We really discourage people stapling, but we do have some that are heavily stapled up. And the ones Crisso, if you know what Crisso is, we're not putting those in the playground. We're throwing those in the creek. I'm kidding. We're not throwing them in the creek. I don't know how they're getting there. That was for my friends at DEQ. But we're saving money not having to buy mulch. We're getting good, clean mulch into our playgrounds. It's pressure treated. It's really holding up a lot better. And so it's just another way that we're continuing to recycle materials that are available to us. See this in your communities? So the first picture over here, I don't know if this has a pointer. So this picture here, that's what we like to see. In our community, that is free. If you put it out like that, we come pick it up, we mulch it, and we take care of it for you, no charge. This right here, we don't really like, but our ordinance says that if you put this out, it's $50. So we'll charge you $50. We'll come mulch it, we'll clean it up for you. This is just a homeowner that's really not educated, and we're trying to help them out. We don't want to leave the burden on them because sometimes, it may be an elderly couple and that's just the best they can do. But it's a increased hazard for my staff, and so we created an ordinance that we would do that. This right here is commercial. You've got people that are coming in, and it was so bad that we had people cutting trees and limbs from outside the community and bringing it in and dumping it because they knew we would clean it up. So now this is no longer acceptable. We will not collect this. If we see it, we put a notice on the door. They have 3 days to remove it, or it's a $500 fine. We don't see this anymore. And it's really cleaned up and beautified our community, and you don't have brush piles sitting there collecting skunks and snakes and whatnot. And so it's really made a difference. So what do we do with it? Well, a few things. We're taking it from this to this. The solid waste management program, we are going through and we're collecting it and we're chipping what we can. There's always opportunity for growth to do more. Again, we're limited funding, small community of about 2,000, and so we're just having to take baby steps. I would love to be able to take this, and I was talking with the guys from Norman, and they're saying that they're making some good money with the drop-off. I don't have the location. I don't have the equipment to handle it. When we get to that point, we'll be able to grow our program. But we're taking that, and we're taking it to our composting location. Storm drainage. When we clean out our storm drains, clean out our culverts, we're going through, and instead of taking that dirt and just dumping it somewhere, we're feeding that into our composting program, and it's providing some really good fill material. It's rich in minerals, and so we've found, get a little bit of gravel in there, but it's not hurting anything that we've seen. But we blend all that together at our composting facility. And some of the mulch we deliver. If you are a community member within city limits and you request that, hey, I want some mulch, we'll bring that to your home for free. And it's gone over really well. I've utilized it. It's good for my garden. And it just gives them the opportunity to either compost it themselves or spread it in flower beds and gardens. But most of it is going to our community garden. We were able to establish a community garden 2 years ago through the efforts with DEQ, Oklahoma Code Enforcement Association, and we received a TSAT grant. And we built this community garden to feed our nutrition center and to feed the community. I don't have the exact statistics, but I think that we served roughly 80 families through the community garden this year with little or no cost to them, and then we were able to take a significant amount into the senior nutrition center. And we're continuing to grow that program, and so putting something new into nutrition. Right now, and we've looked at the statistics, 40% of all the food in the U.S. is uneaten and thrown away, which is about 108 billion pounds of food wasted. $408 billion. We're not wasting that much in Comanche, thank goodness. But this is one of the worst products that you can put in a landfill because of the bacteria and then over time the potential leakage. And anybody heard of the 50-30 initiative? So the 50-30 is to reduce all food waste by 2030. And we're going to do our part to contribute to that. Again, through a DEQ grant. We haven't received the grant yet, and because of the supply chain issue, the machine is on back order, but we're hoping to get it any day. And it's the Compostology 2422. It's an on-site tool. Essentially, you can put in 22 pounds of food, and it will be, you can put it in your flower bed or your garden 24 hours later. And it's revolutionary. I think we're going to put it into our nutrition center. We are serving around 70 to 80 people per day, and we've calculated that we're bringing in about 25 pounds of food waste. Even though we're portioning it for seniors and we're hoping that they are eating what they should be, we do have a significant amount of waste. And so we're going to utilize this. The next morning, we will be able to take this product out and go stick it in the community garden, which is across the street, and it's going to be providing nutrients to the vegetables that we're growing. And if anybody knows where we can get a grant for a greenhouse, that's our next step so that we can increase our growing season. But I'm really excited to implement this. Our plan is, if depending on when this comes in, we want our nutrition center to be a zero waste facility by January. And we've looked at what we're buying. We've changed our buying methods. And really everything that we're bringing in there to prep food is recyclable. You're buying cans in bulk, a case of cans at Steel, we can recycle that. Our cardboard's recyclable. And we've really minimized it. We're probably, I would say, less than 100 pounds of trash going out per week right now. But I feel that once we get this food out of there, that we would be able to get to that 0 point by January or soon thereafter. So, I'll look at this and my wife would say, stay away. But, I could recycle that. We could ship that and put it in the playground. That could go into our composting. Most of this here is usable material. It does not have to go to a landfill. It's just depending on how you look at it. But, practically everything's recyclable. We need to educate people and put the responsibility back on the communities and our consumers. Without their participation, no matter what efforts we make, it's going to fail. We need to find partners and build relationships, especially those with deep pockets. I do appreciate all of our funding resources. We've made some great connections both in the public and private sectors. We've gotten federal dollars, state dollars, private dollars, and we don't take it for granted. We do appreciate that because we do have limited funding for our community. And I'd love to tell you a story about how we got to where we're at, because when we started, it was really, really bad. One of my greatest quotes or favorite quotes is "Be the change that you want to see," and that's from Gandhi. So you've got to do it yourself. Let your neighbors see you doing it, and together we can make a difference. I'd be glad to answer any questions, but that's all I have. Yes, sir.
Also, I'm with the DEQ tire program. Don't put your tires to a chipper. Go up the road to 4D, talk to Max. He's got a chip that will go right into your playground.
Yeah, we use 4D. We stockpile them, so we have multiple collection events throughout the year. We have one big one, and we collect them at our street barn, which we need to find a better location, and then we get a permit for hauling, and then we take them at 4D, and they've been a great partner.
On the greenhouse thing, I would check with your local law enforcement, see if they've cracked down on an illegal grow operation and abscond an abandoned greenhouse and use that as
I have been on several auction sites, and unfortunately have not won any of those auctions yet, but we're watching.
Yes, sir.
Yes, in the composter that you're using with your senior nutrition program, you have to sort what you put in there. You can't put meat in normal compost. You can't put grease or fat in normal compost.
Yeah, so we're not using grease. That's one of the advantages. My understanding is that we'll take meats. So, we're...
That about dairy. No.
Our dairy is very limited. I mean, it's really ice cream and some cheeses. I don't think the minimal amount of cheese that we're going to be putting through there would affect it. So, it's going to be a learning experience. I read the guide, and I feel that most of what we're producing through there, it's not going to work for every entity, but they're marketing this to restaurants. They're marketing it to schools. So once we realize the benefit of this, we're going to take it to our local school and try to get them to participate in this as well.
I know as a personal composter at home, if we put bacon or sausage or anything like that in our compost, it gets rancid to start with, and then you have animals.
Well, but this, again, is not sitting, so it's not going to have that opportunity to develop an odor because it's in and out within 24 hours.
I know, but once you put it in your garden, that's where the problem is.
Sure.
Your composter fine, but once you put it on the ground, you're inviting raccoons and possums.
Well, I will report back after we have a few months of trial and kind of let you know how that's working and if we're finding anything that's not working in the composter. Yes, sir.
So, have you implemented pay as you grow in your community? Is that something you've looked into?
I'm sorry, pay as
you grow? So, like, you pay more if you throw away more trash, you get a smaller trash can, you pay less?
So we do. I've not heard that terminology, but if you want an additional cart, there is an upcharge for that because we do not allow anything beside the can or on top of the can, which, prior to me coming in was allowable, and we would have 8 bags of trash beside a poly cart. So now if it's not inside the cart, we don't collect it. That has allowed us to improve the recycling program because they're now seeing that as a additional waste storage.
And you can also go to the USDA possibly through the EQUIP program for greenhouses.
Thank you. I'll check that out. USDA, another good friend of ours. Any other questions? Again, thank you for this opportunity. I don't know where I'm at on schedule, but you might get a break out of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.